Good morning. Welcome to the Java Cafe.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Today is Wednesday, October 30th, 2024, and you were in the Java Cafe this morning, and we're serving some special brew this morning. As some of you may know, it's Cuffin season, and we're in partnership with ABCD Health Services around bringing you information and awareness about sexual health. However, that is not the only thing that ABCD Health Services does. They also are here today to speak with us about, as we know, as we've had the Ellie Fund with us and others to talk about Breast Cancer Awareness Month for the month of October. We're going to further the conversation around breast cancer awareness, talk about ABCD's health services, 4 key areas, 4 priorities when it comes to bringing awareness to breast cancer awareness, and how they partner within their network and how the network serves patients. And so I am going to bring in all of my guests this morning. And some of you obviously see on the flyer that Dr. Polanco was to be with us today, but she is not feeling well. So send her some good healing and positive thoughts. But our Director of Health Services at ABCD is with us, and we're going to bring in Maureen Scott and also Dr. Vanderweel and Michelle Wingham-Brown. They're going to chat with us about the partnership, the network, and what we're doing, make a little correlation between the connection between those that may be dealing with breast cancer and also STI and HIV, talk about the services, their key areas, and how you can also tap into some of the information. So let's bring in Maureen, our director, also Dr. Vanderweel, and also Michelle as well. And so good morning to all 3. I was going to say all 4 because there's 4 people on the screen. But to all 3 of you, thank you for being here with us this morning. And I would like to just for a second, as we're talking about breast cancer awareness, is just take and acknowledge that many of us know and have loved ones and friends and colleagues who have transitioned due to breast cancer. And so we just wanted to name and lift that this morning. But we're here today to also bring awareness to what you guys are doing. And so, Maureen, you are not you're no longer going to be on the guest level. I
didn't come prepared. We had a bad hair day, so I tried to make it cute.
You look wonderful, Maureen. Thank you for being here. Please greet the folks and say good morning. And we're going to come back with you and talk about what ABCD is doing. We'll hear from Dr. Vanderweel and then Michelle as well.
Oh, good morning. I'm Maureen Scott, and I am the Director of Health Services at ABCD, and I'm really happy to be with you. Thank you for having me again, Jimmy.
Absolutely. And Dr. Vanderweel, would you please greet the audience and say hello as well?
Good morning, everybody. I'm Jenny Vanderweel. I'm a family medicine doctor, and I work at Codman Square Health Center, a community health clinic in Dorchester.
Thank you. And certainly last but not least, Michelle, if you could introduce yourself, say good morning and introduce yourself as well.
Good morning. My name is Michelle Wingham-Brown. I'm the patient navigator for Codman Square Health Center.
And Michelle, you look very familiar. I think I've seen you in community before. So welcome to the Java Cafe, and you, Dr. Vanderweel, as well. And so there is a lot of information to cover in reference to what it is that ABCD Health Services is doing, and also, naming and understanding that Black and Brown women are disproportionately impacted by the stats. And there are some just wanted to review just a couple of numbers, and I want to thank Jamie for making sure that I had this information. But things are very interesting when it comes to the numbers as far as where we are. And there will be, and this is, going, and we're not at the end of the year, as Jamie mentioned yesterday, there are 310,000, basically 311,000 new cases of breast cancer in women this year. In 2021, it was estimated that there were close to 4 million women living with breast cancer. And so, Maureen, I'll start with you, and then Dr. Vanderweel, I'll ask you to maybe chime in as well. Where are we? Where are we with breast cancer?
Well, the post-pandemic is some trends regarding breast cancer and all the other cancers as well. I mean, the biggest thing with during the pandemic where it may have caused the delay of diagnosis of breast cancer and other cancers. But I really wanted Dr. Vanderweel to address the things that post-pandemic,
Okay.
how the patients, what the patient's needs are, since I'm not on the ground with them.
Absolutely. We will
But
definitely do it. We just had a little.
one thing we did notice is that, you know, it did cause a delay in the diagnosis because, you know, people weren't getting health care.
People weren't getting health care, and I knew you all saw a little glitch there, but we got Maureen back. Wonderful.
Yes.
One of the main things when you say healthcare, specifically, Maureen and Dr. Vander, Will, you can speak to this, is screenings. Screenings are already interesting for Black and brown women, and then with the pandemic. And so from your perspective, as Maureen alluded to, you're treating the patients and screening them. Where are we? What trends are you seeing?
I would say even now we're still seeing, just like Maureen said, we're still seeing delays in getting people back into care and back into routine healthcare screenings, which are, as a primary care physician, are so important, are the bread and butter of what we do. When you have a big delay in healthcare access, like we saw during COVID, both at the outpatient clinic level and folks needing care in the hospital, you know, even now, as we start getting more people back in for their appointments, there's other things to address, and there's other health concerns that have come up that may feel more urgent that need to be addressed. And you have a short appointment with your provider, and you may not get to the Pap smear, you may not get to the mammogram, but we know those things are so important. So I'm really seeing in my patients people who used to be so regular about getting their mammogram every year, getting their colonoscopy every 10 years, getting their Pap smear every 3 to 5 years, and now they've gone, you know, several years without it. So we're really putting in a concerted effort to improve our access, to get folks in, and to be able to address those really important screenings during their primary care visits.
Dr. Vanderweel, thank you. You know, it's one of the reasons that I really enjoy this partnership with ABCD is, as you stated, as you're one of their network partners, there's the healthcare perspective, but then there are other things that impact healthcare disparities. And Michelle, we're going to chat with you in a couple of seconds, because you also, in some case, deal with the other things away from the medical. So I thank you so much for your patience. But Maureen, if I could ask you to sort of, you know, the Cuffin season campaign is tied around STIs and HIV. And when we talked about this, I'm like, you know, is there there's a presumed correlation about just being healthy, period. But if you could talk about ABCD Health Services, this focus, and also the tie between just the general services at ABCD, and maybe I know you all have some key areas that you are focusing on in working with your network partners, but then also addressing some of the psychosocial issues that your agency provides resources.
Well,
Sorry.
our organization provides funding for the family planning programs for the different health centers and hospital clinics. And part of it's through Title X fundings. Part of the regulations is also doing comprehensive site reviews and going out to visit with the sites to see if they are fulfilling not only their obligations to the funding requirements, but also if they are following the clinical standards regarding the proper referrals. Also, if their documentation is in order. Also, with the STI testing, if they're going beyond just doing the chlamydia and the gonorrhea testing, but also testing for syphilis and HIV. Many times the patients will come in and just say, no, I want gonorrhea and chlamydia, but they don't want to stay for the HIV, or the anxiety around getting HIV testing. So we're really trying to push HIV back, put it back in the limelight, because we don't talk about it a lot, and you're still getting positive results. When you have a patient with HIV, you have to think of their decreased immune system, which could lead to a lower survival rate if they're not on our therapy. But then in the long run, when they're on our therapy, and Jenny, you can jump in anytime, this is an antiviral. So we're not, we don't know the studies between the antiviral and also the the medication you're getting for the chemo. So there's a lot of things that go into having HIV and breast cancer that can decrease your survival rate. The whole key is every time with any kind of cancer is diagnosing it early.
Dr. Sorry, if you could give us just sort of to build on what Maureen said from a clinical perspective, and then what I'd like to do, Maureen, is just also highlight the key 4 areas and then bring Michelle into the conversation as well, because we're doing a clinical piece, but again, the patient navigator, and I'm familiar with you know what they do, and so I'm anxious to get to her because we're bringing the awareness,
Right.
which about ABCD Health Services is doing, but also knowing that there's a resource with one of your network partners is key. And so, Dr. Vanderwill, based on what Maureen just said, you know, screenings, period, STI, HIV, and then what she said about possible drug interactions. I mean, can you, in a very layman's terms, like just give us that clinical perspective, please?
Yeah, I would highlight what Maureen said about the immune system. You know, any infection, especially HIV, really weakens the immune system. And if somebody is diagnosed with cancer, they need their immune system. They need all parts of their body to be fighting the cancer. And so I think that I think this is an area for more research to happen in, but I think the biggest thing that comes to my mind is that the correlation is that folks who have infections are going to be at potentially, you know, at more susceptible to or have a harder time fighting a cancer. So we want to prevent all infections. We want to prevent HIV, just like we want to screen for breast cancer and detect it early. And if we're able to work on both of those fronts, I think that that's really important for overall health. The other thing I would think of in regards to STIs and to cancer is HPV, which no one likes to talk about, but that's something that is a very common virus that is transmitted through sexual contact.
Yep.
And it's screened for on pap smears. So when we are doing a pap smear for our female patients every 3 to 5 years, we're also looking for HPV. HPV is certain types can be a precursor for cervical cancer, anal cancer, throat cancer, penile cancer. So going back to the STI cancer correlation, that's another strong example where prevention is key and early detection and treatment are key too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the population, HPV and Dr. Vanderwill can correlate this, is HPV is like the most prevalent
precursor to
and less diagnosed because a lot of people don't know that they have it. So that'll be a conversation for the kiosk later.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If I could ask you just, Maureen, because Dr. Vanderwill talked about prevention. And there are key areas that ABCD Health Services focuses on for prevention. And so, and I just wanted to acknowledge, y'all know I'm on wellness and self-care here. And so someone over on Instagram was very transparent with us. And we were talking about, you know, during the pandemic and screening, Dr. Vanderwill, and B Lovers 06, who lives in Connecticut. I was informed I was diagnosed in the pandemic. And so, one, we want to thank you for your transparency. And two, we know that you're in Connecticut, and it gets interesting trying to provide services. But for anyone that may need services, and while I'm doing that pause, I just wanted to share ABCD's Health Services phone number, which is 617-348-6416, extension 6263. But be lovers over there on Instagram, thank you for being transparent. We hope that you are in care, and we hope that there is a sort of Ellie Fund or agency in Connecticut that works with the other services that Michelle's going to tell us about in a minute. Maureen, I don't want to rush through, but again, I want to be sensitive to Michelle. What are those 4 key areas where ABCD is focusing the prevention and awareness piece?
4 key areas, meaning?
Yep. The 4 key areas being around breast cancer testing, as well as, you know, clinical, you know, just bringing the awareness through health services, and also the breast self-awareness, definitely, which is kind of like I remember seeing growing up and being in public health, the self breast exam. And then also,
That's the biggest thing. The breast self-exam is most women do diagnose themselves.
Okay.
Also with your exam, and I found this when I was still doing clinical work, the clinical breast exam is still really very important for the clinician to do and may sometimes get bypassed. Also, knowing the warning signs of breast cancer is very important. Reviewing that with your patient and just informing the patient of what's available, like keeping what is done in a lot of the health centers, well, all of the health centers is, and Dr. Vanderwell can allude to this, is that on the opening page, they usually have all the tests that are due for the patient. And if a mammogram is due, the patient will get an alert to that, to their online chart, keeping the patient informed when her exams are due. I think that's really important. And also when they come in for if they come in even for a follow-up, that's something that clinician can bring up, that when they're there, you're due for your mammogram, or, inform them on that.
one of the major areas that you all do this is through partnership. And so we've heard from Dr. Vanderweel. We're going to come back. But Michelle, I want to ask your perspective, because we've heard from the clinical perspective, the clinical lens, but you being a patient navigator, if you could just remind folks, we've had a few on the show before, but if one of you could remind folks what you do, and then from your perspective and your service, where are we? And then talk about just what it is that you're doing and you provide at Cardman Square Health Center.
My primary duty is to get the patients in, follow the patients until they're either diagnosed with cancer or they go back to a regular screening status. So I call them, I send them letters, I make sure that they're aware this when they're due for their screenings. I make sure that I keep in touch with the patients at all times to make sure that they're coming in. It's sometimes hard to do that now because of the pandemic. We are backed up. Some of the patients are due for their screenings and they can't get screened all the way up to like next year now, that they could have been screened in October, November, but every place is booking out. It's not only one health center, it's all health centers that are booking out, but it's up to the navigators to keep in touch with the patient. If we can get them in sooner, if something opens up, and let them know that I have something that maybe you can get in a little earlier. But it's up to the patient also to get to those screenings. So a lot of times we'll set up something, and we're under Boston Medical's umbrella, and sometimes when they have to have follow-ups, it's hard to get the patients to go for their follow-ups when they're needed. But then when they want to go, then they're anxious. So now it's kind of our fault because they didn't get in on time, even though we've let them know that they needed to do so. But that's basically what I do, is just follow up on them. Some patients love me, some patients don't, because I'm constantly calling them.
That's not a bad thing. That's
no,
not a bad thing.
I enjoy it when I get on the phone with someone and they say, okay, Michelle, we know that's you, because
Yep.
they know that I've been calling them several times or trying to reach them. And that's basically making sure they get the right resources that they need. I know you had a note on it about the insurance part. No,
Yes.
I'm not into the insurance. My duty
You're
is
not that navigator. Okay.
right. No, but I lead them in that right direction.
Gotcha.
Fortunately, we do have an excellent insurance services enrollment center here. So I lead them to them, and then they deal with the insurance part of it. I know that was one of your questions.
Absolutely. Michelle, it wasn't just, from a host perspective and holding the space and allowing you to speak, but we heard again the clinical perspective. But I thought it was important to just, as Dr. Vanderweel and Maureen named, as some of the young people say, life is lifing. And so Dr. Vanderweel, kind of off cuff, based on, and you all were informed that I respond to the your answers to my questions and the energy. And I've said this often. Based on what Michelle said, we have not seen the full impact of the pandemic. And there's this backlog. There's someone that just stated, and Maureen, please forgive me because it's going to kind of distort your face a little bit just because the length of the comment. But I saw a comment here that says another family member's primary doctor transitioned during the pandemic and they've been on a wait list for a primary for 3 years. And so if we know, Dr. Vanderwill, that the primary, first of all, routine and primary care is key in everything, because you all hold the space of sort of the coordinators for our care. And so can you just give us about 30 seconds back in that trending thing, and then maybe talk about how Codman Square, through Michelle and other partnerships like with ABCD, is addressing all that comes, the psychological needs and everything that comes with where we are post-pandemic, behind in screenings, and let alone if you're aware that there's a family history.
Yeah, I think there's so many things there to touch on. I think it would be remiss not to talk about difficulties for primary care access in the state, across the country. It's so hard when we know there's patients who we want to get in and we don't have appointments for, and that could be a whole nother conversation. But I definitely feel for everybody who, including people I know, and who are trying to get primary care appointments. One thing to know is that a lot of health centers, including Codman, you don't necessarily need to have an appointment to get with a primary to get a mammogram. So we have a standing order. If you're a patient here, you can come in and have a screening mammogram done.
Walk in.
Walk in to get an appointment scheduled. Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say, okay, that's still good, but I was like, wow, that's awesome.
No, a lot of the access issues that Michelle was alluding to are at the hospital level. So if somebody needs, not to get into the weeds, but if somebody needs a diagnostic mammogram because there was a question seen on a screening mammogram, there can be long wait lists for those appointments. Same thing for colonoscopies. There can be long wait lists for colonoscopies for screening. The good thing is that at health centers like Codman, we have our own screening mammogram machine. Again, it's pretty easy to come in and get an appointment for a screening mammogram, as well as there's stool tests now for colon cancer screening. So we find other ways to try to bring this to primary care and to the community health center, so that not everything is relying on having to go to a hospital for the services. The other thing I want to touch on really quick that you mentioned is family history, because that's so important. When we said at the beginning for breast cancer specifically that early detection is the most important thing. The earlier breast cancer is diagnosed, the better treatment you're going to get, the better care you're going to get, the better outcomes you're going to have, the sooner you're going to hopefully be back to a good quality of life. And with breast cancer, the two ways to do that are through screening, someone who has no symptoms, but they are keeping up with their recommended screening, starting between ages 40 and 50, going up to 75, getting a mammogram every 1 to 2 years, because so much is happening. So many breast cancers may not have any symptoms to start with. The second thing, or the corollary to that, is about family history. So I just said those ages, and we hear those ages put out there, and that may be what your primary recommends. But if you have a family history of breast or ovarian cancer, because the genetics of those are related, any family history of breast cancer or ovarian cancer, you need to let your provider know, because your screening guidelines may be different than what is published for the general population. So a different type of screening or an additional type of screening, such as a breast MRI, could be recommended for you, and starting earlier could be recommended for you. So really important to share that family history with the provider. The second piece of that is people who do have symptoms. So knowing, everyone knows their breast the best. You know what your breast feels like during your period. You know what your breasts feel like after your period. You know if something's different, and your provider isn't going to know that unless you share it with them, and then they can do that clinical breast exam we talked about. But going back to breast self-awareness, and I would even say I've had patients come in who didn't feel anything themselves, but with a partner during intimacy, the partner felt something abnormal that hadn't been noticed before, brought it to their attention, came in, got the care they needed. So that self-awareness actually extends to everybody who cares about the women in their lives.
I just found, Maureen and Jamie's probably going to get me, but I just found a very sort of harm reduction and real thing to correlate between what we're talking about and cuffing season. If you're cuffing, Dr. Vanderweel said that potentially during your little cuffing time, be intentional. Maybe if you fall in this category, be intentional in your time of intimacy around this cuffing season. But when you're Dr. Vanderweel, I'm sorry, off the cuff, but I really felt that because I said harm reduction, but any and every way that we can get screened or whatever it is, and you said it, in times of intimacy, and that partner felt something different that they didn't feel before. That hey babe,
Jimmy, this is part of the education when you're dealing with teens, especially when they come and tell me, and I asked about they had sex, and I said, did you look at it? Did you see it? No, it was dark. No, even though you can't diagnose someone that has a very perfectly looking
piece of sexual equipment, yes. We're not going
to. There's chances are you might see something that's not supposed to be there.
Maureen,
so
we got
We
got a couple of after darks coming.
That's how that brings people in.
Here. You're on to something here because on social media, there's a whole trend right now of a rapper and some young lady, and she didn't look. But Dr. Vanderweel, I told y'all that when y'all answer that energy, I respond to that. But it was a good opportunity to let partners know that be intentional, maybe sometimes sexual health and breast cancer awareness. It was just a good correlative spot for me. Michelle, I wanted to ask you, as you clarified the piece around the patient navigator, we've been for ever since I can remember a teenager, October, Pink, well, maybe in my 20s, that we bring this awareness every month, and we're highlighting sexual health. By your observation, and I just wanted to name a comment that was sort of dedicated to you. Miss Teresa said, those check-in phone calls mean so much to a patient going through health scares and health trauma. And so keep doing what you're doing. What can we do to be healthier besides answering your calls and following up when you tell us to? What, just generally from a layman's point of view, what can we do to be healthier? We know about breast exams. We know about protection during sexual health. But from that patient navigator experience and what you're seeing, what's some advice you would give us?
Well, that's a good question. Right now, as a matter of fact, that should be on the tables. I'm doing a tabling session for the month of October, giving out information to the patients. You know, they have friends or family that might need that information that haven't been in for their mammograms or whatever. I told them I would be at the table later today. And we do have, when you get back to that point that you said about the mammogram on the spot, just so happened that this month on Wednesdays, we're doing a women's health wellness session. Every Wednesday, we've done that for this breast cancer awareness month. And we have been getting patients in, like on the spot. We set aside some appointments that the patient came in, we can get them in right today. If I go to the table and somebody was there that was supposed to have a mammogram, we set aside a couple of spots to do that. And just giving out the information and outreaching to the patients and letting them know what is available. A lot of patients don't even know that they can have their mammograms done here at the health center. And just getting that awareness out that we have these services, the HIV services, all of those services we have here in the clinic, and getting the information out to them concerning what they need, if they need help with food, anything that they need to get them in for the appointments, babysitters, this and that, Ubers to get them back and forth to their appointments. We provide a lot of those services. So it's just getting the information out to them to let them know that we can help them get a lot of these services, but they have to be willing to do some of it on their own too. We can't just do everything for them. So it's empowering the patient to get the information, and then they have to follow through with it also.
Absolutely. And you've said that a couple of times, Michelle. And so thank you. And we've talked in my Your Healthy Java series that, you know, if everything was perfect when it comes to healthcare equity or health equity, we still have a responsibility to take advantage of it. So it is a dual. And so between your phone calls and partnerships like this with ABCD Health Services and theirs with you at Common Square Health Center. Dr. Vanderwill, I'm going to ask you as we get sort of ready to wrap up and close out, you know, you have a community health center, you have a community development agency, and you have a community focused social media platform that we now know is a new form of media and getting information out. And so, Michelle, I would ask you first, how important are partnerships like between ABCD and I, you and ABCD, all three of us together? And I just want to name that not only Codman Square, but I have a list right here. There is a whole list of other partners that ABCD has in their network. Boston Public Health Commission, they have health centers in schools, the Children's Hospital, Demick Community Health Center, Dot House, Harvard Street Neighborhood Health Center, and Edward Kennedy. They out in Worcester. Okay. Worcester Edward Kennedy Health Center, Mattapan Community Health Center, Victory Programs, just a whole lot. How important, from your perspective, Michelle, are these partnerships to health equity and healthcare?
I think they're very important because we need to all work together. We can't do it just by ourselves. I don't think it's just like we need ABCD. They need us. We need to be able to partner with Boston Medical, even though we're under their umbrella. They have a lot of programs. So when the person is going through cancer, we can send them to a lot of programs for them. I think all of the neighborhood partnerships are important. I don't even know how to say it. I just think that for us to all partner together is very important for all of us, because the more access they have to care and the more access they have to resources, the better.
Absolutely. And Michelle, thank you, for everything that you do and keeping things together between the clinical and life, experience of folks. And not saying that clinicians aren't in tune to that, because certainly Dr. Vanderwill has demonstrated today that she knows what she's doing. Maureen, if I could ask you, we're active in it. We are currently active in it. Social media campaign, Cuffin season, and just, simple plug here. You can go to this link right here, jwj.info/cuff safely. Not only will you get the information about the kiosks for cuffing season, but you can also get all of the information around what ABCD is doing in the health services department. And so, Maureen, at the anchor agency, why is it so important that ABCD it went out and built this sort of, and I just envision this, y'all are in the middle and a spider web, this network of just connectivity to get people into care. Why is it important?
Well, first of all, we have to take care of our community. We have to keep them aware of self-care. Also, we have to make them aware of the accessibility of getting health care. And the biggest reason for the kiosks, of course, was one of the barriers is it may be work, it may be the stigma, it may be embarrassment. You may not have transportation to get to the health centers. So to be able to go to the kiosks in the different parts of the community and get self-testing and get pregnancy tests, anything that's going to bring you into the health center so you can get that care. And just keeping our network with all of our funded sites. We try to keep them aware of the current trends and also provide opportunities for them to network so that they can increase this healthcare, increase the healthcare to the community.
Absolutely. Dr. Vanderwill, before we get ready to go, I'm going to see if I can do a synopsis, and then anything I miss in your closing remarks, you can catch up. So it is key to understand that partnerships are very, very important. While we are talking about cuffing safely, which includes being screened, first of all, preventing, but if at risk, being screened for STIs and HIV. But at the same time, we're also talking about routine and preventative health care. And that is a good way of making sure that you're getting your other major healthcare screenings like colonoscopy. And I want to bring one thing to our attention, and Maureen, with all due, there's a lot of references to her and she when it comes to breast cancer.
And with
All
male
three
breast
is-
cancer, with male breast cancer is there, even though it's less than 1%, it still exists. It's been holding steady over the past few years, but
because
male breast cancer does exist.
and the potential that some may all across the board, you know, the importance of screening early is because the earlier that you're screened, if you're going to end up being diagnosed, if you're screened at stage 1, and Dr. Vanderbilt, am I right? Is there a stage 0?
There are things that can be monitored very closely and prevented anything happening. So yes, in that sense of it, yeah.
All right, I'm going to shut up and finish with my synopsis so you can finish here. But so the STI and HIV screening, and then stay in touch with your primary care doctor. We understand and name and acknowledge that just across the board, nationally and locally, especially with, this is James saying this, medical capitalism, primary care is very interesting. But it is important, and there are partnerships like ABCD and community health centers are an anchor when it comes to health equity. And so I see why ABCD went this route. Just very quickly, the 4 areas that ABCD Health Services focuses on in their partnerships is, first of all, breast cancer testing, also a clinical breast exam, and also to be aware of your breast. And men, this y'all too. If you know, working out and well, or not, and you know, you feel something that's like you need to talk to somebody. And the last thing is why we're here today is to be aware of ABCD's health services, as well as Coffin. I'm sorry, I forgot one thing. This is what we just threw in. What Dr. Vanderbilt mentioned is know your family history as well. And so last thing I wanted to say is that Codman Square Health Center's website is actively hyperlinked in the comments here. And so you can go in the comments and hyperlink there. And then also I'll put the Cuffin season link as well, because that takes you to all of ABCD's health services. All right, I'm tired. And everybody knows that Maureen knows and the audience knows that's an indication of a good interview. Okay. And it was kind of that synopsis as well that took a little wind out of me. Maureen, did you want to say something before we turn it over to Dr. Vanderbilt?
Well, you know, I never give plugs for TV shows, but there is a drama that I saw and I was stuck on it watching. I think it's called A Million Little Things, or
okay.
It focuses on breast cancer throughout the whole drama, throughout the whole series, and male breast cancer.
So the point
I was really drawn in. So if people are stuck watching, you know, binge watching things like that, I would suggest that it's A Million Little Things, and the whole series focuses on breast cancer for both the male and the female and their partners. Throughout it.
Again, I respond to your answers. Dr. Vanderbilt, in your closeout, Miss Teresa said she thinks it's called A Million Little Things.
A Million Little Things, yes.
There's a term for men,
Gynecomastia.
Yeah, but in layman's terms, again,
men with breasts,
or with man boobs. We talked about partner. We talked about, you know, intimacy. Am I often saying if your male partner, whether across the spectrum of gender, male, and let's just also ask this, and this is in real time too. And we know you have the X clinic also there at Codman Square. Do trans men need to also, and maybe this can be another show. I know everything that I'm aware of everything that comes with that. But there is that piece, and I just wanted to name that, Doctor. So there's a lot I'm setting you up for closing remarks. But again, it's you all's fault, because this is why we're doing what we're doing. So the original question was, Dr. Vanderbilt, why are partnerships like this important? And then, you know, as you've given maybe grand rounds or lectures or talks before, I'm sure you're apt to pull everything together and close us out. Thank you. Thank you.
I mean, I would answer this question by thinking about a pyramid of health, and what we see as healthcare providers is the very tip of the pyramid. By the time you're getting up to the hospital, below that the community health center, but all below this is your health, your self-care, the community you live in, the community resources that you have access to, everything that plays into you making it to the primary care physician and making it to the mammogram and making it to the hospital when you need to get there. And even though I work at the maybe second level down there, we're all fully aware of everything that is the whole pyramid below that. And I think that that's why conversations like this, educating folks, empowering folks, we're not blind to all of the medical trauma and stigma and fear that goes with getting tested for HIV, that goes with getting your first mammogram, that goes with getting your 10th mammogram, that goes with going to the doctor at all. Again, thinking about the pyramid. So the more that we can have conversations, whether it's about getting a mammogram or it's about HIV screening or whatever it may be, and do whatever we can to reduce stigma, to normalize this, I think is what's most important. And that's what ABCD is doing, and that's what you're doing by connecting with people. And we can't treat what we don't know. We can't screen who we don't meet. So that's why this level and this partnership
Hold on. Say that. I like that. Say that again. We can't what?
I don't remember what I said. We can't treat what we don't know, and we can't screen people we haven't met. So
no. What you said was we can't something we don't know, and we can't screen who we don't meet. Dr. Vanderwill, that's you might see that on an iteration of the next Cuffin season.
But I think that as a result of conversations like these, if one person goes and gets a mammogram, I think that's a success. So that's why these conversations are so important.
All right, I'm getting y'all off my screen because I feel a little condensation in my eyes. Because that's the mission. That right there is the mission, Dr. Vanderwill. So thank you all so much for being here, because I feel my health equity help coming on. And so we're going to get ready to get off of here. But I really want to thank all three of you for continuing the conversation generally about health equity, the importance of healthcare, the importance of let me be specific, the importance of routine and preventative healthcare screenings and getting into services. And I appreciate what I observed of all three of you, not just you, but you're at these agencies. And so these agencies also have people to understand and know. I would be remiss if I not ask Dr. Vanderwill one last question, because every time we have an opportunity to plug this, we have to. Clinical trials. You mentioned research. How I see your posture. Well, I'll let y'all go after this. How important when it comes to health equity are clinical trials as well?
It's not fair for the medical community to be making decisions and trying to roll them out to all people if we're not knowing how all people respond. And so we can't, we use a lot of evidence in medicine to try to provide the best care we can, but it doesn't feel good when we know that evidence isn't necessarily applicable to everybody that we're working with. So definitely more can be said about that, but we want representation everywhere, and clinical trials are no different. Yeah.
I'm getting y'all off my screen. Thank you all for being here, but in all seriousness, thank you. I'm gonna make sure this is cut up and we get these messages out on socials, because this is key. Thank all of you for being here today. Jamie and others in the background, Lee and others at ABCD that are working, the social media team, and of course at the helm, Sharon as well. Thank you all for what you're doing at ABCD, one of the longest, most impactful community development agencies in our city. And so thank you all for what you're doing, and also Codman Square as well, and everything you're doing. And Michelle, especially you, for navigating the nuances that come with trying to be a good patient. Thank you so much. You all have a great day. I'm going to go and give some minimal commentary to the audience. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good day.
Folks, I hope that your happy selves. Now, let me stop because I don't. Yeah, that just. Y'all know how I am, and all that coming together around clinical trials, health equity, and anyway, I'm getting off of here. I have an important 11:30, so I have to prep for it. So, just wanted to shout out Miss Teresa. You can't really tell, but this isn't red. This is pink. And so thank you for making sure that I'm adorned in the Breast Cancer Awareness Month pink. This is our last episode around breast cancer awareness for this month. We did well this month in talking about that. Also celebrating women-owned small businesses. Y'all saw yesterday, I couldn't say that for the life of me. And so this is why what Dr. Vanderweel said, I was in here just acting up. Because this is why we continue to do what we do, coming up on 5 years on March 22nd, March 24th. But yeah. All right, I'm getting off of here. UCB, you guys get an hour today, and we will see everyone. Michelle is also still doing her fundraising for her breast cancer awareness efforts. Miss Teresa said, can we find Miss Teresa? I was going to say, get off my screen. Naraki, have a nice day. Beautiful. MZM, good to see you in the building, and others. I'm not going to get into Sharon Cornelius, Asia, Sister Soraya, Pastor Marion, Mama Java. Who else I see in here? Some other folks, everybody over on Instagram, Sister Debbie, Opal, and others. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for those that are over on Instagram and those that are on Twitter as well. We will see you guys tomorrow morning. What's today? It's today, Wednesday. A shot of Java tomorrow morning. I don't know how I did that. A shot of Java tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. And we'll see you then. Tentatively, we may have a show Friday. I need to check some things. And that is it. All right. Have a good day, everybody. And we will talk to you soon. Oh, tonight at 8:00. For those of you that missed we also talked about domestic violence this month. For those of you that miss the domestic violence awareness show on Sunday, we are going to premiere that tonight on YouTube at 8 p.m. It will only be airing on YouTube. We'll share the link on socials, but you'll only be able to watch it on YouTube. Now, let me tell you, you will not be able to watch the movie. Legalities, Daniel's also other considerations for film festivals and all that other stuff. And so we can't leave the movie freely up on the internet. So, but the conversation was rich. Resources were rich. So we're going to premiere that tonight, and you'll be able to go watch it over on YouTube. All right. Y'all have we did a domestic violence show, Monica, on Sunday. Brother Daniel, see you. Thank you. And shout out to YouTube. Daniel, Laurent, I said it right. Laurent. I always call him Laurent because it just sounds whatever. But Daniel Laurent, a producer, a rapper, an artist, just everything, poet, just does a lot. Husband. Oh, you did see it, Monica. Oh, okay. Awesome. You probably commented in the night. All right. I'm getting off of here. Before I get myself in trouble. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Again, have a great day. And that's it. No hour and a half today for UCB members. Y'all in slip.